there is one musical that's set in this really interesting time. So, the 1920s in North America was a fascinating time for a variety of reasons. One, we'd only had one world war and hadn't totally bankrupted the economy yet. So there were a lot more options sort of floating around. In addition to that, because in World War I, a lot of people thought they were going to die in the mud in a trench, they decided to hurry up and figure out they were queer very quickly. And so, coming back from World War I, the 1920s was actually very queer. In fact, the Hanky Code, which some of you might be familiar with, is actually based on naval codes because so many soldiers were going to queer bars at the end of the First and Second World Wars that it was actually pretty natural to take the Navy Code and turn it into the Hanky Code. If you don't know what the Hanky Code is, you and Google are going to have a great time tonight. It's unlike Googling the DSM, which is a horror show. But the Hanky Code is a way for you to let somebody know what you might be into and in what capacity you would be into doing that. Fister, fisty, right? We'll work it out that way. But in that time, you also had, is anybody here familiar with the term Boston marriages? No, a couple of people. So these were what we would consider at the time non-traditional, what we would say together, collectives of lesbians who bought houses together and lived and worked and supported each other economically. Boston marriages often involved 3 or 4 women living together and were super fucking queer and did not originally start in Boston, but became a common term for these kinds of collective communities. And at the time, you could get put in prison as a woman for doing anything. Smoking in the street, wearing gender non-conforming clothing, having kids, not having kids, trying to get an education, trying to go to Harvard, trying to become a mechanic, and at the end of the day, the 1920s was also the advent of an explosion in household chemicals, like arsenic, for example, which became not only incredibly common, but remarkably deadly. When you put a population of people into an economic system that don't have a lot of power and have a lot of access to rat poison, you get some great musicals.